So it's not just about trying to bypass a drug that doesn't make much money for drug companies. I know a lot of people think in those terms. They think, oh, well, there's this continued search for better treatments for bipolar disorder, even though lithium works because lithium doesn't allow drug companies to make much money. That's not really the case. If you were to do a literature search on the actions and mechanisms of lithium in terms of how it can calm people down and reduce their manic episodes, you would find an enormous array of papers, literally thousands of scientific studies in animals and in humans, which, for instance, will tell you that lithium treatment will increase so-called BDNF, brain-derived neurotrophic factor. BDNF is often talked about in the context of neuroplasticity, the brain and nervous system's ability to change in response to experience. And indeed, it does seem that ingesting lithium increases BDNF. BDNF is what we call permissive for neuroplasticity. It doesn't create specific changes in the brain, meaning it's not going to make your memory better or your coordination better or your emotional state better per se. What BDNF does is it permits the neurons, the nerve cells, and their connections in the brain to be more likely to change if the proper environmental conditions are met. That is, BDNF creates a kind of buoyancy to neuroplasticity. It opens the gates to neuroplasticity. So lithium does increase BDNF. We'll talk about why that's important in the context of the neural circuits involved with bipolar disorder in a few minutes. It also seems to be a potent anti-inflammatory. Now, inflammation is one of those words that's thrown around extensively nowadays, especially on social media and especially as it relates to any health condition. It's like inflammation always seems to be discussed in the context of inflammation being bad. But I do want to point out that inflammation is a natural adaptive response to physical injury to a cell or organ or tissue of any kind. Inflammation is the basis by which adaptations occur to exercise. So if, for instance, you were to weight train and use a heavier than normal weight, do a set to failure or create some little micro tears in the muscle that are healthy in the sense that they would create adaptations and make that muscle stronger, maybe even grow that muscle. There's an inflammatory response associated with that is critical to the positive adaptation. So inflammation isn't always bad, although excessive or, as we say, runaway inflammation is bad. Lithium seems to be able to suppress inflammation, and importantly, it can suppress inflammation in neural tissues and within the brain in particular.